Good morning, Director. I'm Hirokazu. This is a pleasure for me to be talking with you this morning. So this is going to be an interview for my podcast and my YouTube channel, Carolyn Talks. It's a podcast and YouTube channel where I speak to film creatives around the world about their work industry and what inspires them.
で、今日はこの方は Carolyn Talks というコンピューターでの、はいウェブサイトを持ってまして、はいはい、その中で、いろんな世界各国の監督と映画関係の人とのインタビューを見せています。
Okay, so my first question for you is everyone always asks directors what their muses is, but I want to ask you what emotion is your muse, because a lot of your films rely heavily on talk about loss, love, childhood trauma, abuse, as well as found family. But what particular emotion inspires you as a creator, especially coming from directing documentaries to directing feature films?
でそういったドキュメンタリーとかフィーチャーフィルムじゃなかったわけですけど、最初の頃は。で普通ミューズっていうと人なんですけど、今回は感情との感情が監督にとって一番なんていうんですか、ミューズの役割を果たすか。
映画の中でどの感情が一番中心にあるか。
In a sense, it's which feeling is the main feeling.
For all of your films, because there's so many different emotions, but if there's one emotion that you rely on the most or that inspires you the most.
だからもちろん監督の映画の中にいろんな感情が描写されるわけですけど、その中でもこれっていう感情が一番自分が頼りにするっていうか。
脚本プロットを読んで一緒に脚本家の方と脚本を作りながら、もちろんいろんなものが大事なんだけど、一番大事なのは音楽室で奏でられる2人の音だと思った。ホルンとトロンボーン、その音が、それまで言葉にできなかったことを音として表現しているし、音によって少年が動き出す、音が人を救う、それが言葉ではないことがとても面白いなと思ってました。なので音楽室へ向かって進んでいく物語として作るということを考えます。
So in this particular movie, in creating the plot, I wanted something unspoken that would really sort of propel the plot, be the main theme to it. And to me, it's the moment in the film where you have the two sounds, the trombone and the trumpet. And those sounds, as they share that moment, drives the protagonist forward. And it sort of frees him up in a way.
Right. You mentioned, I was going to ask you about the trumpet and the French horn, because that scene is it's like cacophony. It's a lot of noise. And it feels, like as you said, it's about driving the characters forward. But for me, the emotion that I felt in that moment was anxiety. And it was anxiety of worrying about if these young boys, especially Meguru, if he would be able to find the freedom that he wanted, because this whole film is about assumptions. I think the monster in this film is assumption. People assuming what they know. So there was a lot of anxiety for me in that particular scene. So that was the emotion that I felt for the majority of the film.
And この映画の中にやっぱりそのアンザイティっていう心配、神経質になる部分を感じたんですけど、特にそのシーンの中でトランペットとフレンチホーンがちぐはぐな音を出してるところに、そこに2人の持ってた不安みたいなものが出てくるように思ったんですね。特に麦野が自分のアイデンティティのことで、それに対していろんな不安を抱えてたわけで、 だから不安 anxiety っていう不安になるんでしょうかね。心配っていうか。
でもそれを超えていくものなんじゃないの、ありのままの自分を肯定するものとしてそれでいいのだという自分を肯定させるものだったんじゃないの、音自体は。
But I think the sounds itself actually go beyond the anxiety, and they say no, you are okay the way you are. That they actually justify who they are.
Hi. For me, Meguru and Hoshiwaka, they have a love for each other, and there's a scene where Meguru, he says he likes someone, inferring Hoshiwaka to the teacher, but he says he's not supposed to like the person. And I know for a lot of people they might read it as him meaning, for instance, he might be discovering his sexuality and finding a romantic relationship with Hoshiwaka, but I saw it as him admitting that he likes someone that the other kids tell him that he's not supposed to like, because the other kids are bullying Hoshiwaka. So for me, it was him finding, as you said with the horns, finding acceptance with himself and being able to say, I like this person that everyone tells me I'm not supposed to like. I like this person that everyone looks down on. And there's a freedom in that. There's a freedom in being able to be friends with who you want to be friends with, but being able to be around the people you want to be around, especially for someone who everyone shuns. Like Hoshiwaka is shunned by his father, by the teachers, and by the students.
ですから麦野はそこでこうあるべきだということを自分で確かに分かるようになるわけで、自分がなんていうんですか、自己確定というか、星川さんのことを好きだと、でみんなが彼のことを見下すわけですけど、それでも自分は本当に、友達としてももしかしてそういった他の形でも、好きだということで、麦野さんの自分のこう肯定ができるわけですね。自分自身を肯定することができて、それが肯定できたことによって自由を感じたというふうに思います。Yes.
そうだと思うよ。
I think that's true.
星川君のことをみんながある種いじめるのは見下してるからではなくて、多分理解できない。それは周りと同じことをしないから。すごく象徴的なのが黒田さんの車目って言ってよってクラスメートに言われて思ってないから言えないよってはっきり言うんですけど、ああいう状況で主人公の麦野君も本当はやりたくないのに星川君の机の上にゴミを置いてしまう。それが多くの大半の人が取る行動だと思うんだけども、星川君だけはそこから逃れられている。そのことが批判の対象になってしまうっていう状況があるんだけど、見下してるのとちょっと違う。で、湊君が星川君に感じる感情というのはもちろん、非常に複雑なものが含まれていると思うけれども、友情を超えたものもあるだろうと思うけれども、尊敬もあると思う。思ったことは言えないのだとはっきり言えることに対する尊敬っていうものが最初にあるっていうのが僕はとてもいいなと思った。脚本を読んだ時。
So it's true that Mugino likes Hoshikawa, but he knows that he's not supposed to like him. But in a way, there's so the thing about Hoshikawa is that he doesn't go by the rules. So he will do things like, for example, when they talk about the little mole, and he says, no, I don't think it looks like a mole, I'm not going to say it. So he refuses to play the games that the people are playing. And Hoshikawa, and so because of that, because he's different, because he doesn't play by the rules, they look down on him and they can't understand him. But Mugino feels a kind of freedom in that. And he, for example, in this, that another example is when there's all that garbage on Hoshikawa's desk, he adds to it because he can't resist that. But at the same time, what he added, he doesn't feel good about it. So so he doesn't. It's this complicated situation in that sense. But he realizes that he does respect Hoshikawa in some ways.
That scene that you're talking about in the classroom where they put the garbage on Hoshikawa's desk, I thought it was a very important scene because there's something that one of the students says, and it says so much about the entire film, and it talks a lot about bullying, about how bullies react. Bullies expect their victims to react in a way that feeds the bully. They get off on antagonizing and upsetting their victims, but Hoshiwaka doesn't give them that. They said that he just cleans it up, and then one of the boys say, "Oh, aren't you going to react? Aren't you going to be upset?" And he's like, he doesn't even respond to that. And I thought it was very important because a lot of people don't understand that sometimes it takes so much courage and strength just to hold yourself back from reacting. And I thought it was very important. And I think Minato saw that, and he learned a lot from Hoshiwaka with regards to that.
やっぱりクラスルームでのシーンっていうのは非常に大事なシーンだと私も思いますと。でそこでいじめられるわけですけど、普通いじめられた子というのはそのいじめる対象の人たちに対していじめられた子らしい行動をするべきですが、実はその時に星川さんがそれをしないと。でむしろ平然と片付けたりすると、そうするといじめた方が物足りない感じをするわけですね。でもやっぱりその普通はいじめられたらこうするんですということを抵抗する一つの勇気と力を持っていて、それを麦野さんがそれを見て、あ、すごいですねと感じたんだと思います。Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. So my last question,
sorry, you had a question, yeah.
No, he can respond and then I'll give my last question because I just got the warning.
Go ahead.
So I mentioned for me the monster in the film is assumptions. It's the assumptions that the bullies have about Hoshikawa. It's the assumptions that Minato's mother has about the teacher, and even about the assumptions the teacher has for the principal. Everyone is assuming things about everyone, and everyone's perception is different. The truth is, they say there's three sides to every story. Your truth, my truth, and then the real truth. So I want to ask you, what's your real truth about this film, and what's the monster in this film to you?
モンスターというのは私が思うには、みんなが勝手に自分で考えてる、想定してることだと思います。それがモンスターだと思います。例えば警察にしてもお母さんにしても先生のことを勝手にこういうふうに考えてると。でみんなの見る視線が違うわけですよね。考え方が違ったりしてて、でも監督にとって、今回は、何が本当のモンスターだと思いますか？
集団とか人の関係の中で、理解しようとする努力を諦めた瞬間に生まれるもの、それがおそらく至るところに起きている。学校と母の関係の中でも起きてるし、クラスの中でも起きてるし、映画の登場人物と観客の間でも起きている。そのことを観客が見ながら第3章の子供のブロックに至った時に、観客が1章2章を見ていた自分が怪物なのだというふうに気づくということがとてもダイナミックな転換があって面白いなというふうに僕自身は捉えてましたけど。
So in my mind, I think that the monster is within the relationship. So these relationships happen, and then because of that, everybody thinks about this and this and this, and then they try to understand each other, but they don't really. And the monster is, in a sense, the gap, the lack of comprehension. And in a way, the audience is also participating in that, because when they see the first part, they can get a certain impression, and then the second part, they get another impression. And so I think that the monster really is that what is missing between
right, the disconnect between the characters.
こうキャラクターとかの間のこうちぐはぐな部分ですね。Yes.
Thank you so much.
ありがとう。
ありがとう。So everyone, that was another episode of Carolyn Talks, and today this was one of my special interviews for the 2023 Toronto International Film Festival, and I was so happy to do this interview because it's from one of my favorite directors. Not even exaggerating, has nothing to do with prestige or whatever. I just love his films. His film Shoplifters had me in tears in the cinema. I saw it screening at TIFF in 2019, and I was in tears, just in tears. And then he had another film, Broker, which screened at the 2022 International Film Festival. That was his first Korean-made film. And of course, I am talking about Japanese film screen legend Hirokazu Kore-eda. I have to geek out because it's always such an unexpected pleasure for me to be able to interview people that I consider to be on my bucket list of interviews. And and so Hirokazu Kore-eda has always been one of those. I got to speak to him very briefly during TIFF. It was only 8 minutes, and I'm hoping and praying that one day I get to have another sit-down interview with him, which will be definitely longer. I appreciate the time that he took to speak with me, and I also appreciate the time that his interpreter took. She told me her name and I wrote it down, and I can't find the paper where I wrote it down, but I appreciate her time speaking with me and the team at Wellgo USA, because they are the ones who helped me organize this interview. And my friend Sarah, who works there, she came through for me. Thank you, Sarah. And I'm just so happy. But this was a film, Monster, which is about two young boys who are discovering who they are as individuals, about who they are as a friendship, and learning to build a friendship when everything around you and everyone around you is against you. It's about assumptions, about the assumptions we have about people. Even young children can have misconceptions about each other, and it's about that. It's about young bullying as well as adult bullying, and also just when is protecting your child wrong, and how is protecting your child wrong. That comes through in this story. I'm not going to spoil it because I think one of the beauties of his films is you never expect where his films are going to end up, and it's like the storytelling is not linear. And I love that because it makes the audience think. He's not telegraphing every move that the characters are going to make. He's not telling you where the story is going to go. When you're watching a Hirokazu Kore-eda film, you never know where it's going to end. And this film, Monster, is definitely like that. So I was so happy to speak to him, and I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. And as I said, this was one of my TIFF 2023 interviews. So you'll find other interviews that I've done so far when this interview will be published for A Road to a Village, which is a film from Nepal, as well as an Indian film called A Match. I have those two interviews published so far. This one will be my third spoken interview, because I also wrote a piece for KOFIC, which is a Korean Film Council. Their vertical digital magazine, K-Movie Today, wrote an article about the Korean films that I saw during the festival. And of course, I have way more interviews coming, so look forward to that. And of course, you can watch the video version of this interview on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Carolyn Hines. That's @Carolyn, CAROLYN _Hines, HINDS. You'll find all of my TIFF interviews from this year. There are previous TIFF interviews, the New York Asian Film Festival that I covered this year, interviews for Sundance, South by Southwest, as well as my usual Carolyn Talks interviews that I do throughout the year with independent filmmakers, those from African American Film Critics Association, virtual roundtables. I love those interviews because they're where we get to talk to Black creatives in the film and television industry in North America, and sometimes from around the world. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram @CarrieCNH. So that's @CARIECNH12. Find links to my work on my social media, as well as just come and talk to me, chat with me on Twitter. I'm always there talking about film, TV shows, music, random things, politics. I'm a multifaceted girl. And you can also go to my R3 page. That's authoryauthory.com/Carolyn Hines. I find links to all of my podcast episodes there, as well as links to all of my writing, which will contain op-eds, film analysis, written interviews, and other pieces that I've done related to film, such as those I've done for disabilityvisibility.com, You can find work, all of those links on there. And in one of the selections, you can look at all of the publications that I've published with so far. I can't wait to see who else I will get to publish with in the future. And I also have a link to my GoFundMe in the description box here on for the podcast and on my YouTube channel, because things have been a little bit for me financially lately because of the strike, and the length of the strike was when it went on, and it was hard to get pitches accepted. So like my income was a little bit stagnated for a while. So I have a GoFundMe link in there, as well as my PayPal link. So if you can donate, please feel free to donate any amount that you can. It is greatly appreciated. And that goes towards my work, equipment, paying for the platforming fees for the podcast YouTube channel, as well as my equipment, as well as for coverage at future film festivals locally here in Toronto, as well as internationally. I'm planning to do some traveling next year. I would love to be able to attend Sundance or South by Southwest in person, as well as the Busan International Film Festival in this October. So that's it. So as usual, I'll wrap up by saying until the next episode of Carolyn Talks, everyone, stay safe. Bye.